Will the City of London be better or worse off if Britain leaves the EU? With less than 2 months to go before the British referendum on membership of the EU, the debate over the consequences for Europe's biggest financial centre is now heating up. Joining me to discuss this are Ruth Lee, Economic Advisor to Arbuthnot Banking Group, and Patrick Jenkins, the FT's Finance Editor. Welcome. Ruth, I'd like to start with you. I mean, what if there were to be Brexit, a British exit from the EU? What would that mean for the City of London?
Well, of course, I think the first thing is that if there were a Brexit vote on the 23rd of June, then the government, the British government, would decide what sort of relationship it wanted to continue with the EU. And I believe very strongly what they would do is try and go through a system of regulatory equivalence. In other words, they'd try and keep something very close to the passport, which is important to banks, in order to maintain trade very much as it is today. If that succeeded, and I think I'd have optimism that that would succeed, it would be in London's interest, but it'd also be in all the European financial institutions' interests who are based here because they like London, because London is a unique talent pool. If that agreement was successful, then I think disruption, yes, I think even the Brexit fans would accept there'd be a little bit of disruption, but there wouldn't be a major change.
Right, so you're in the camp that the city would certainly survive Brexit. Do you think it would prosper even more outside the EU?
Oh, it could do. I mean, I'm just sort of thinking of the next 2 or 3, 4 years, actually getting over the hurdle of actually leaving. But further out, if the British government took the view, or indeed the City of London took the view, that it would be better to be a buccaneering, sort of swashbuckling type of organisation of Pirates of the Caribbean sort of thing, and they would get rid of all the regulations, then it could actually do better. But that would have to be a judgment made then, 5, 10, whatever years ahead. And I say that because, of course, we know, I think, that where the growth markets are going to be for financial services is not going to be in the EU. It's a mature, rather stagnant market. The growth markets are going to be elsewhere.
Right. Patrick, bring you in here. I mean, you spend a lot of your time in the city, you speak to lots of people. What do you think the view is towards the referendum?
Well, I think just as a basic balance of views, if you like, there's definitely a nervousness about Brexit. The vast majority of the city is for remaining. And that, as Ruth quite rightly says, the passporting ability of banks from the City of London into the single market across the EU is the key thing. Without that, and maybe it could be renegotiated, but without that, banks would not be able to operate in the single market out of London. They would have to set up, you hear the likes of Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Citigroup, senior people there, all warning that they would have to relocate portions of their business to Dublin, to Frankfurt, to Poland, in order to be able to continue to do that.
And do you think, I mean, you've been based in the past on the continent and know the financial authorities there and sort of the thinking over there. What do you think the scenario Ruth described? I mean, would the others, France, Germany, etc., be willing to grant London, these privileges, or do you think that they might sort of say, after a vote like that, look, that's it?
Well, I think there's several aspects there. I think on a political level, there'd be a great nervousness about being too generous towards the UK, not least because of the encouragement that might give to anti-EU parties and electorates elsewhere in the region. But at a kind of purely selfish point of view, in terms of self-interest for the financial centres like Frankfurt and Paris and Dublin, yes, there could be an attempt to steal business. So I have to say, I was talking to the Irish finance minister around this topic only recently, and they are far more nervous about the big picture damage that could get done to European finance as a whole from Britain leaving than the self-interested benefits that they could draw.
That leads me to my next question, Ruth. What do you say to fears like that?
Well, I understand the fears and I understand the uncertainties. No one's going to pretend that it's not uncertain. And it comes down to the whole question of the feasibility of the scenario I painted as to whether they're going to be able to negotiate an agreement, which sort of quasi-replicates what we've already got. I'd be relatively optimistic, because I think I already implied that they would go ahead with this, because, of course, it is in the interests of the French banks like BNP Paribas or Soc Gen or indeed Deutsche Deutsche Bank Investment Bank, that they do have the facilities afforded by London. It's not as though we'd have to be a terrific supplicant and we'd go around saying, please may we have our privileges, please. I mean, okay, I understand the language, but I don't see it that way. I see this as a purely commercial relationship where the German government, or indeed possibly even the French government, I'm perhaps less sure about the French government than the German government, would be happy to go along with the idea of helping their financial institutions maintain their position in London because it gives them global reach and it gives them global competitiveness. It's in the commercial interests of those particular institutions to do a deal.
Ruth Lee, thank you very much. Thank you, Patrick Jenkins. And thank you for watching. Until the next time, goodbye.